Dear friends, welcome. Today, a Sicilian specialty, roasted eggplant terrine. So how do we get this going? We start first and foremost with an eggplant. Cut the top off, then cut the eggplant in half. Once you cut it in half, it's very important that you score it. So this is how we do it. Going across this way and across this way. Same with the other half. Now, the reason why we score it is because the next thing that we're going to do, we're going to salt it. When you put the salt, I want it to be abundant. I want you to rub it right into it. This will make the water of the eggplant come out. Before you can cook the eggplant, I want you to put it on a towel and let it sit and drain for about 20 minutes. After that is done, I want you to take it here on top of your baking instrument, the vessel in this particular case, a beautiful sheet which I already have lined with parchment paper. We're gonna put it in the oven. We're gonna cook it until it's nice and soft. We've done the same thing with slices, which I have right here. These slices, I already have salted them. We let them drain for about 10-15 minutes. Then we wipe them off. We're gonna brush them with some olive oil. We're gonna put them in the oven. And when I come back, I'm gonna show you how to make this wonderful dish, typical of my region, Sicily, full of flavor, full of taste, and you will say to yourself, how did he do it? But you already know how. An old Sicilian song. I used to sing it as a little boy. Why? This is a Sicilian specialty. So how do we make this terrine? Very simple. It takes absolutely nothing. Come with me. These are the eggplants that we have cooked. They've come out. Now they're perfectly cooked exactly to the consistency that we want. Using the spoon, we want to basically take the flesh of it out, just like this. And after they're cooked, they're going to come out exactly this way. This sucker is just fighting against me. Look at him, until the last breath. But I am not concerned. I'm going to push all the way through. And what you want to do is, using your spoon, just scoop it out, make sure that nothing is attached to the bottom of it, and you put it into a container like this. Why? This is very important. What we want to do at this point is to make sure that the eggplant drains. And as it drains, at the very bottom of it, you see some of the eggplant juices that have accumulated from all the other flesh that I added to before. What are we going to use this for? Two things. This one, now that it's drained completely, I'm going to put it into this bowl. The juices that are left behind, I'm going to do something else. I have some tomato sauce in here, to which I've added already some fried celery, a little bit of mint, a little bit of sugar, a little bit of chicken stock, and the water from the eggplant. This is going to maintain a flavor that will be consistent in the making of this dish, which is going to be absolutely delicious. Now, let's talk about how we're going to make the mix of all of this. Why don't I show you instead of just talking about it? The first thing that we're going to do is to bring with us this bowl in which we put the eggplant flesh that we roasted so well. The character of this dish comes from the flavor that the eggplant picks up. So we start first and foremost with our binding agent. The binding agent are the eggs. So we break the eggs and we mix them in just like this. To this, we add a little bit of the egg whites, a little bit at a time, just to give it a little bit of airiness to it. And then the real pay comes with the cheese. The cheese, in Sicily, we use pecorino. Pecorino siciliano, not romano. But it's simply pecorino. Beautiful, spicy cheese. My wife doesn't like it so much, so when I make it for her, it's always parmigiano. But if you make it at home, the first time, try it with pecorino. So here we go with the pecorino into it. You want to fold all of this together real well. Be gentle, try not to break the egg whites. The importance of not breaking the egg whites, they're going to give lift to this terrine. They're going to really make it pop up. Do you remember before, when we got started at the beginning, I had two types of eggplant. One, which was the halves, which I scored, I salted, I roasted, and the other one were the slices. These slices we'll use to line the loaf pan in which we'll cook the terrine, but this is not finished yet. We still need to bring back some solidity to it, and that building, the solidity, is done with the breadcrumbs. I like to use Italian-style breadcrumbs. You can use anything you want, even panko, but I would prefer Italian-style. They got more flavor. So here we go with it. You want to make this nice and thick. So gently fold this in kindly as it is. Here we are. Ah, look how pretty it is. Now be careful with this. You don't want to be too forceful. You want to maintain it. As you do, you really see this mixing. Now, the way I know when I had it enough is by the amount of wetness. You want to try to get it as dry as possible. Why are the breadcrumbs so important? During the cooking of the terrine, these breadcrumbs will absorb all the juices that still are in the terrine that will come out. And at the same time will plump up. And as they plump up, they expand and they give to the terrine the nice solidity that we're looking for. This is more than what we need. It's perfect. Let me move everything else here aside. And let's get started now with the actual assembly of the terrine itself. How do we do that? First thing that we need to do is to line the loaf, as I mentioned to you before. This is a loaf that I have placed aside. Allow me to clean my surface. And these are the slices that we have placed in the oven. Now, they're cooked. They're perfectly cooked, nicely roasted. Look at the color that they picked up. Important that before we do anything, we rub the bottom of the terrine with butter, and then we put some breadcrumbs in that, and shaking it well, we make sure that we create a coating that completely does cover the terrine. Why? I keep saying the terrine, but what I'm meaning is the loaf. It's going to make it very easy for us later, once it cooks, to unmold it. If you don't do the simple step, as simple as it is, everything will stick to it. So this is something very important for you to do. Now, the way in which I like to do it is to have a little bit of it overhanging, and then I do the bottom first, just like this. It's not a special technique. You can pretty much go whichever way you want to. And those slices will fight you. They'll say, no, I don't want to. Just be gentle with them. Say to yourself, patience, my young man, patience. In the end, everything will work to your favor. So here we are with what we have. On the side, I'm going to prepare for myself some of the mixture that I have, which is made with the goat cheese. The goat cheese will be what I refer to as the middle liner. So as I take this mixture and I put it on the inside, the first thing that I want to do is pack it real nice and tight, you see? Then in the middle of the first layer, we start putting our goat cheese. The goat cheese is going to look beautiful on top of the fact that as you cut into it, it will have melted in just about every single part of the terrine, giving the additional flavor that we love. Then the additional mix that I have on top of it, just like this. And here you are. Here comes the part that we all love the most. There is this last slice, which is the slice that I put on top, and then you sear it from all sides. There's a certain amount of stickiness that's going to work in your favor, using your hand to press it down. This is one of those things where you do need to get your hands dirty. If you don't, you're going to have a problem. We're going to now put the terrine in the oven, and we're going to let it roast in the oven until it's completely cooked. Then we'll take it out, and once it's taken out, you got to actually let it rest until it's cool enough to handle. The terrine has now roasted. Well, actually, to tell you the truth, it has baked for 45 minutes at a very hot oven. Now we unmold it. Let's keep our fingers crossed. I hope that it does exactly what we want it to do. Here we go. And yes, yes, victory. It has happened. The next thing that you want to do now is to cut it in slices. Very important. A very, very, very sharp knife. So what we do with this, tentatively, I like it nice and thick. So here's one slice. Very delicate as you go all the way down to the end. Oh, look at this. Perfectly laid out. Here we go, one more. Perfect, perfect. This is what I love. The goat cheese in the middle is completely melted. It's gone into the filling. The shape of this is beautiful. How do we serve it? Very, very simple. The sauce that we made is at the key of this dish. Very Sicilian in taste with all the flavors that we put in. The mint itself is right now peeking through. The fried celery is the beautiful part that every time you bite into it, you will taste a little bit. What I like to do is to cover the bottom of it with the sauce. You can choose any plate that you want. Have something that has somewhat of a minimum amount of a rim in there. When you cook this at home for a large group of people, there is a small technique that you can use to avoid any problems, because when you cook for a large crowd, the last thing that you want to do is to cut the slices one at a time. So one of the ways in which you can handle this without a problem is to go ahead and cut the slices earlier in the day, then put them back on a baking sheet and bake them in the oven about 325 degrees, 10 to 15 minutes. They'll be nice and warm, and then using this instrument, we're going to take the terrine right over. And there you are. Sicilian-style terrine roasted eggplant. Not only it looks beautiful, but it tastes fantastic. And there it is.